Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and Session for July 9th, 2020, recorded around 4:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, taking a look here at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies, last updated as of yesterday, July 8th. We continue to notice this area persistent cooling out here in the equatorial Pacific, mainly out here in the Nino 1 to 4 regions. We continue to see this area really begin to undergo a transition into a cool neutral and or a La Nina background base state. By the time we get into the fall of this year and into the winter of this year, we will likely either see a cool neutral, certainly for the peak of the hurricane season, we will see a cool neutral, and then towards the winter, we might even see a weak La Nina onslaught here as we continue to get these easterly winds that will cause upwelling across this area. And conversely, in the Atlantic Basin, this is a very favorable signature and kind of anomalous warmth down here in the deep tropics for tropical waves to come off and have more energy to work with. Basin-wide, this area is running about a half a degree to a degree Celsius above the long-term average in spots. This will help to, this will certainly help to energize these tropical waves as they come off of Africa over here and really have a shot down here in the main development region as we head towards the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. And that certainly holds true that we will see anomalous warming here over the next several weeks or so as westerly winds cause a downwelling effect across this area, surfacing warmer and warmer water that will continue to warm the main development region. And you can really see all the way up into the southwestern Atlantic here, the southwest, the subtropical Atlantic as well. Very warm above the long-term average. This classical phase 1 Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation, phase 1 AMO, that typically favors the warming of the deep tropics. That is very prevalent here today, and you can really see that kind of shining through. So again, warming out here in the deep tropics, certainly a sign for a very busy Atlantic hurricane season. And combined with that, taking a look here at the upper ocean heat content numbers as of this morning. And again, really what I want you to kind of focus on is the upper end of these numbers out here towards the darker reds and even the oranges and yellows. That's where you're kind of seeing those higher concentrations in and around the Bahamas, and then in the Caribbean. Those numbers are very warm and quite a bit above 2017 in terms of the upper ocean heat content values out here, literally at the upper end of the scale out here. In portions of the Caribbean, off of Belize, and some in Cuba, and the Cayman Islands, certainly very, very warm down there for this time of the year. And water temperatures are going to remain warm as we progress throughout the rest of the season. Obviously, out here in the deep tropics, we're continuing to see a slow but subtle warming. Most of the southwestern Atlantic and western basin is more than favorable in the thermodynamic sense. And it's really only a matter of time before that wind shear finally relaxes and we actually start getting these tropical waves to end up really getting going across that area. Out here again in the deep tropics, the Cabo Verde Islands now experiencing some of that upper ocean heat content as we will continue to see this area push gradually up to the north here throughout the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. And pretty much it all systems a go after we get really through this part of July. So very interesting to watch. And to kind of favor on that even more, water temperatures in this area are extremely warm, even 32 Celsius, so very warm. Water temperatures running in the southwestern Atlantic roughly about 87 to roughly about 90 Fahrenheit, so very warm this time of the year in the Atlantic Basin. The Gulf of Mexico, water temperatures are generally running 29, 30 Celsius, so very warm out there. Near Barbados, water temperatures still about 29 Celsius and 28, 29 Celsius across the whole entire Caribbean. So very warm. You also notice the Gulf Stream that's running out through here, for, very warm, 28, 29, 27 Celsius. So it is very warm. We're starting to see that kind of take place, and it's only a matter of time before something really tries to get, going, anywhere out in this region. So the time is coming, and the window of opportunity looks to be favored, within the next few weeks or so as we get, even more anomalous warming out there in the deep tropics. So we will continue to be watching that. But again, taking a look here at the Eastern Pacific satellite here from the College DuPage Cod Meteorology. This is actually Tropical Storm Christina. It is still a tropical storm, but is tightening up pretty nicely. You can see here, even on the wider satellite loop here, you can nicely a central dense overcast across this area. And this is going to be running into a little bit of a problem here. All of this drier air that has still gotten into the center of circulation a couple of times. You might imagine here, circulation is rotating counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, so it is drawing in a lot of the drier, more stable air from the north that has been entrained in some of the center of circulation a little bit earlier today and even yesterday. Certainly that has helped to slow the intensification a little bit, but this is expected to become a hurricane rather soon and is likely basically on the cusp of becoming a Category 1 hurricane. This would be the first Eastern Pacific hurricane in the 2020 season for the Eastern Pacific. Also watching another area of disturbance back here, which could get its act together over the next several days or so. But that will be plagued by some of the outflow, the remnant outflow, causing some shear on the system. So we will be watching this. But again, none of this is even any significant land concern for the Baja of California, the California Gulf there, the Cabo San Lucas resort areas, Mexican coastlines and Central American coastlines. This is of no significant concern for those areas. However, this will be a swell producer, especially for the Cabo San Lucas resort areas. So if you do live along there and are, or vacationing down there right now, visiting the resort areas, make sure to, kind of check in with your beach forecast, really just kind of watch what's going on. If you're unexperienced in surfing or swimming or whatever, stay out of the waters. There's going to be an increased risk for rip currents and swells. But surfers certainly pay attention to this, be mindful of it. But surfers are going to love these conditions over across the Cabo San Lucas resort areas. But again, this is going to eventually turn on out here, expected to become a hurricane by later today or early tomorrow, and then eventually turn well away and then eventually weaken off and really become a remnant circulation here on Tuesday. So no significant concerns, but this will produce some of a swell for those areas. So certainly we'll be mindful of that. Now to the big topic of today, we are talking about Invest 98L, soon likely to be Tropical Storm Faye out here. You notice this has become more gradually organized since the day yesterday. This has become a lot better organized. The hurricane hunters are in there right now. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But this is taking a look at the visible satellite and also the 500 millibar RAP analysis, about 18,400 feet in the atmosphere. And you notice what's going on here. We have a lot more of a clearly defined banding structure today. You notice there has been some evidence of a banding structure that has been taking place here over the last several hours. A new convective burst, which is closer to this area. Now, what happened yesterday is we had a big surface trough that was kind of draped across this area. And as I talked about, the surface trough would promote a couple mesovortices to kind of rotate around as we had this deeper convection kind of spitting out these mesovortices. Well, what ends up happening is these little mesovortices, kind of rotate around and whatnot. And eventually we had a mesovortex this morning that kind of wrapped around, and it eventually lost a lot of its energy out here. And you can still kind of see how this is enveloped in a larger kind of elliptical shape here. You notice there's a very elliptical looking shape to this overall envelope of energy out here. Now, this means two things. A, this can still spit out some mesovortices from time to time, and a possible center reformation further east within this deeper convection does remain possible. However, we did likely see, as a result of surface fluxes across this area, surface fluxes combined with reducing shear during the day today, and the overall promotion of deeper convection has prompted a area of low pressure, a low level center of circulation to form in this region. And that can be very well disputed with the recon plane that was in there from a little bit ago. In fact, we'll go ahead and update this. But it did find a pressure of about 1,006 millibars, suggesting that we did find a closed low-level center. This is likely to become Tropical Storm Faye here by the 5 o'clock advisory. You notice these wind barbs out here as recon made its first pass through here. It did notice a very sharp kind of wave axis that was generally through here. You notice here you're getting these kind of, these westerly winds in through here. You're getting more southwesterly winds in through here. And then eventually the plane found these easterly winds, indicative that we did have a wind shift in here. Now, again, it is still a rather elliptical looking, sign here. And if we kind of speed this up, you notice how this area is still in this kind of rather elliptical shape. And what that's going to do is promote a track where, as such, the circulation still has to kind of pinwheel around here. So what will end up happening is this will likely impact the Delmarva area or New Jersey here over the next 12 to 24 hours. Now, again, we may see tropical storm warnings posted for some of the coastlines up through here. Now, exactly where this makes landfall is still the real question, but this is going to remain rather close to land. If we take a look here at the sea surface temperatures, the actual SSTs from earlier this morning, again, coming off the NOAA NESDIS site, water temperatures out here are running generally about 27 to 29 Celsius, where 98L is currently soon to be Faye. But again, what we're also seeing is that as this generally moves to the north, these water temperatures rapidly decrease as we head further to the north, as we would expect. And as such, water temperatures are only running about 24 to 26 Fahrenheit, Celsius across this area. And that is likely not going to be enough for significant organization much further. So this is likely to maybe intensify a little bit later, a little bit more during the day and evening, but then after really tonight, the intensification should stop, and baroclinicity processes will take over from here, and then eventually transition this into a subtropical remnant system out here. So again, this is not expected to be a very long-lived system. In fact, this will probably only last about the next 12 to 24 hours or so before this finally moves inland and eventually becomes a remnant circulation. But again, during the day today, we have seen an increase in organization with the simple fact that we have seen a lot of surface fluxes in this area. And you notice the overall cloud pattern. We're still seeing a little bit over here. If we take off the 500 millibar analysis and just kind of leave it at the broader sector, you still do notice how we still have a partially exposed center out and through here. So this is still a partially exposed center. And if we take a look here at the radar coming from Morehead City, you notice where we're starting to get more of that banding kind of taking place in through here. So we have started to see this area try to tighten up a little bit more, and we can really see that. But again, let me jump here to the velocity. Again, you notice where we're still seeing a lot of smaller circulations kind of pop up from time to time. So again, we'll really have to watch to see how this actually maintains itself. But right now, this is likely to become a tropical storm within the next couple of hours here, if not so already. So again, Faye is practically here, and it should be on its way to intensifying into a very weak system, and not expected to be a very big system at all, and is certainly not expected to be a very significant looking system. So again, we will continue to monitor that, but no significant concerns there. And if we take a look here at where the system is currently from earlier this afternoon, this is the invest position earlier this afternoon. We're actually sitting right about here right now. You notice the upper ocean heat content not very favorable. And if we pop on those sea surface temperatures there, these SSTs will rapidly diminish once the storm gets much further northward off of the Outer Banks and Cape Hatteras. So not really expecting to see much more intensification from this system. In fact, this will actually probably begin to undergo a devolvement of its inner core structure within the next little while or so, and that will likely kind of pave way to a very brief, short-lived system. But nonetheless, this will bring some impacts to portions of the Northeast, obviously the Delmarva and up through New Jersey. This will provide some heavy rain, maybe some flooding, gusty winds, and any of the squally conditions that do pass through there, but no significant impacts at this time is expected as the center of circulation circulation will not be very well organized, but it is well enough organized to become a tropical storm likely, and we do have to take that into account and respect here. And if we take a look here at the 12Z GFS, this is out to the next 12 hours or so. Really notice how the center of circulation is not really well defined in the GFS forecast and even the European forecast here out here to the next 40 or 24 hours. Again, this will likely be making landfall probably by sometime tomorrow morning or so. But again, that is not a really well organized system, but it is organized enough that we have to take this into consideration. This will put a damper on any outdoor plans, obviously. Gusty winds, heavy rain, maybe some flooding, not really much of a surge problem, obviously, but could cause some increase in the swell action, maybe a little bit of surge action, but not really anything that significant. Again, this is going to take a track rather close to the coastline and impact either New Jersey or the Delmar area by tomorrow morning or so. So again, this will bring some general impacts to that area, but we're not expecting to see a very significant system at all. And again, this will likely become a very brief, short-lived tropical storm. And out across the rest of the deep tropics, we look to remain pretty quiet here over the next couple of days or so. So that is good news for the deep tropics. No real activity expected. However, these westerly winds that will persist across this area will develop and persist in the lower levels will help to significantly warm this area, and it's only a matter of time before things get going. So hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I will be doing updates on Twitter, which will be linked down in the description down below, and doing long threads about soon-to-be tropical storm Faye, more than likely. So hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll see you guys back here then tomorrow afternoon. Stay safe, everyone.